the Bureau de change segment, we saw a significant appreciation of the Naira from over 525 Naira to the dollar in February 2017 to about 361, I would say, recently. Only between yesterday, the day before yesterday and yesterday, we saw some uptick, and I can say that we are seeing that some of our friends at the other side are rearing their heads, and I want to assure them that they're going to lick their wounds this time again. So if you are joining them in speculating, we are in a better position today than we were in 2016, 2017. Don't forget, reserve was 23 billion in October 2016. You could say that we were weak then. Today, reserve is comfortably at $44 billion, so you can imagine that we do have the strength to confront you, and we will do so. Though the pace of GDP growth slowed from 1.95% during the first quarter of 2018 to 1.5% during the second quarter, short-term outlook continued to strengthen with average growth projections of about 1.9% for 2018.
Still keeping our focus on the state of the economy, and we're being joined by the presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili from our Abuja studios. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us from Abuja. Let me get your thoughts with this latest information that Mr. President Muhammad Buhari has reeled out to the states, saying that we will be facing tougher times ahead, and so brace up.
Well, you know, it's unfortunate that we have to say welcome to reality, Mr. President. You know, we kept saying that the general direction of economic policy was not helpful to the goals, I think the primary goal of assuring higher growth in the economy, because higher growth is the basis upon which you can tackle poverty, and higher growth is also the basis upon which you can unlock opportunities for prosperity. And so as the president comes back to reality, to the fact that the fundamental economic policy direction of the government has not enabled the private sector to be pivotal to the kind of broad-based growth that was necessary, well, I don't know whether you say better late than never, because, I mean, right now, I think the best thing that the president can do honorably is to admit that he does not have the answers to the key questions of building a prosperous Nigerian society where we can lift as many of our citizens out of poverty as possible.
Now, you say that perhaps he should be looking at the fact that he doesn't have the answers. You just listened to the special advisors of both the PDP and the APC there with you in our Abuja studios. But if you are basically preaching that word, that these are two Siamese twins, and you call them a boutique agenda that they have, what can you do differently?
I think that the fundamental thing that would be different under my administration is the fact that the market, the private sector, really understands what business is about. It's not the business of government to try to do all the things that the private sector can do. A country like China that used to think that way, that it was the business of government to try to manage the lives of citizens and then collectively distribute poverty amongst them, came to that realization 4 decades ago. And as a result of that fundamental shift in the way that they looked at the role of government and as distinct from the role of business, China began to grow in leaps and bounds. And the double-digit growth that China posted over more than a 3-decade period has led to China growing its economy from less than $1 trillion in the 90s to today's $14 trillion. And in the process, lifting 700 million Chinese out of poverty. The president does not understand the private sector. He does not like the private sector either. The first masterstroke of the president that was lethal to the private sector was his exchange policy. That exchange policy destroyed the economy, and we haven't recovered from it. So private sector at the center of our economic drive is going to shift a lot of things. If you want to create growth, sustainable growth, broad-based growth, then what government must do is become the engine room of intelligent, sound economic policies, fiscal policies, monetary policies. The president did a disservice to this country when he more or less began to dictate monetary policy, which is supposed to be from an independent central bank. Central bank found itself trying to do the bidding of the president. And so monetary policy did not follow the path of adjustment that should have happened when we suffered an oil price shock in the economy. So I would do an economy where sound economic policies and ensuring that the institutions, building, and processes that are reformed, anchored on the rule of law, join with very good prioritization of critical investments in human capital as well as in infrastructure that is necessary to create the right environment for businesses to thrive. Business can smell opportunity. Business understands how to interpret risks. What business does not do well is to operate in an environment of uncertainty. And uncertainty has been the hallmark of this administration's economic direction.
Mr. Ezekwesili, you talked about the central bank and the federal government's exchange policy. Are you implying that the central bank is not as independent as it should be?
It wasn't. It wasn't. In the earlier, I can't hear you again. Oh, you're still talking, but I can't hear you.
No, I've asked the question about the independence of the central bank and how that will work out with the policies you're planning as it regards the private sector taking up the economy, the running of the economy.
Can you state the earlier part of the question? Because I missed that part.
I said, you were talking about the central bank and the foreign exchange policy of the government. But by implication, it sounded like you were saying the central bank was not independent as it should be.
Oh, you know, when the president was inaugurated, one of the things that mattered to him was how he was perceived in relation to the value of the naira. And because he was thinking of it in a very political way, he missed the boat in terms of what needed to happen to adjust the economy to the condition that it found itself. And by the political statements that the president was making, he was sending signals, very clear signals, even if he was not inviting the central bank governor to his office and telling him what to do. All of us who were reading the president could see clearly that the central bank was in trouble. How could they, in the face of the political environment where people suck up to the leader, now do something that the leader would consider killing the naira? Well, the president said, I don't want to kill the naira. He ended up killing the naira. So, and that's my point of view, that the central bank could have done real monetary policy on the basis of evidence that these policies are the kind of adjustment policies you do when your foreign exchange earning capacity is dried up. You need to make sure that the demand side does not alone drive your adjustment, that you must do something about the supply side for your exchange policy. But what happened was that the president's statements made the central bank to freeze the supply side, because everyone that heard of Nigeria and what kind of command and control economy it was beginning to pursue fled and kept away. When the president finally I don't even know whether it was the president or it was in the period that he was absent, that an adjustment was done to the foreign exchange policy, and a window that is market-driven was opened up. You could see that supply came back. And that was when we began to get,
if I may come in here,
began to get some some adjustments.
Okay, we will need to take a very short break. When we do come back, we'll be looking at the political climate you talked about, which is what most likely you'll be coming into, and how you're going to change our political climate so that it affects the economy and bring it back to possibly a 6-point-something growth rate. We'll be back shortly. Don't go.